Barely got here myself today, so at any rate, you kind of do what you got to do sometimes. So that's that. So I want to welcome everybody to the show. It is a show, isn't it?
Sure. It is now. It always is.
Feature. Kind of show. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we do have a second here. He's got a finger out of his computer first. There we go. Yeah, watch your brother trying to get a chip in your arm.
What you looking for?
Every second.
Something's playing.
Yeah, something about an earthquake.
Turn the volume down on your thing. Just let it play.
Music. Gary, your music thing's open. See on the bottom right? The little music? Apple Music's open. Close that up. It's playing.
Yeah, it's
See?
playing.
Just close. Go up to music.
That was too.
You're still.
No,
It's
it
still
is
open.
playing,
You just
yeah.
gotta go up to quit. No. Click on music again. Go down to music. Now click Q. Command Q for quit.
It's Morse code.
Yeah.
Command quit.
Command Q. There you go. I just retired as being the Apple guy. So.
All right. Well, you can still be the Apple guy.
Tanisha, quit.
Play from start. Thank you. And this still isn't going to work. Okay. All right. Call to order and welcome everyone. Do we have any new members in here? Any new? Sir? ZHG. Yeah, we. So what I want you to do, Doug, seriously, is go to your QRZ page and just put some fundamental stuff in there. I was looking for some stuff, obviously. I wanted to welcome Jeannie Hess and Doug Straight to our merry band of degenerates. Yeah. Anyway, I've talked to Jeannie a couple times on the radio, and she's a kick. If you hear Doug or Jeannie on the air, don't forget to welcome them. Any newbies? Any first-time attendees? Okay. Anybody who hasn't been here in 6 months? Just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, moving right along. I do want to just say a couple things about Joe Bartzy. I really didn't know him very well, but I know his son, and I'm sure that Brian got all the bad seeds because Joe was a gem. I did meet him. Yeah, he was around. Brian brought him around. Barry Humans wrote me an email, KI8B, and he said this, and I thought that was a fitting epithet. A good husband, a good father, a good man, and a good ham. Decent epithet for anyone. I thought that kind of summed it up. Brian, you have anything you want to say?
No, not much. He wasn't horribly active on the radio, but he did come out to field day and operate from time to time.
Met him at field day.
Did you?
Yeah, when he came out to field day.
This year? Or a couple
No,
years ago?
it was a couple years ago. So anyway, KC8DKF is a silent key, and we, as John Dunn said, no man is an island and everybody's part of the continent. I paraphrased that really bad, but anyway. All right, anybody else? Brian, we're really sorry. Whoops. Okay, announcements today. Again, like I said, I really have not had much time for much. We do have a VE session coming up December 2nd at the United Methodist Church in Wadsworth. You can go to our website and all the information, and you can pre-register there. We do ask that you pre-register. If you get a wild hair and decide that you want to come out and on the spur of the moment, come on down, not a problem. But we do ask that you pre-register only because it facilitates the efficient execution of administering the test. So that's all I have. I'm going to see if anybody else in the group has an announcement. Fred?
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
is KB8LJ here at the birthday board? Chuck Field? I thought he said he was going to arrive over there.
There's Chuck, way over there.
Happy birthday, buddy. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
So Chuck, it's your birthday? When? Ready? Everybody ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Chuck. Happy birthday to you. All right, very good. Many happy returns there, Chuck. Any other announcements? Yes. N8EI? N8EIEIO? I haven't said that in a long time. Yeah.
Don't see Russ here to collect 50/50.
Russ is sick, and he is not here, so we're going to give everybody a break from, I know that's the only reason Dick comes to the meetings, because he wins all the time.
That's how we pay for the,
No, you don't. Fred, you don't.
well, best to Russ, and I just didn't, I know that's how, partially how we pay for our place here, so.
Yeah, we'll have to ante up. We'll have to ante up, yep. Okay, any other announcements? For the good of the cause. What's the cause?
Amateur radio.
Ah. Okay, Mike, minutes. October meeting minutes. We got them out? Any questions? Mike would love to explain it. Yes, sir. Oh. Sorry. Do you have anything for us? For the
No, I don't really have anything. You know, I try to get them out on a timely manner. Sometimes I succeed, and sometimes I don't. But if there's any questions or any concerns or any corrections, holler. And I will be more than happy to make whatever needs to be done. And for the record, be sure to sign the sign-in sheet. I don't want to have to.
We're going to start penalizing people
Yeah,
who
it's
don't
going to
sign
get
in a sign-in
ugly
sheet.
if, you know, yeah.
Okay, all right. Very, very good. All right, motion to accept the October meeting minutes. Stefan? Second, Marty?
Motion to adjourn.
Too quick, Marty. Too quick.
Never mind.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign? Good. Nay. All right, next up, the Frito Bandito. Not a whole lot going on this month.
This month, really. We did have a donation we did give for the repeaters that we received. We did pay for the Barometer Net t-shirts. That is on there. And then the only other thing we have is the monthly All-Star hosting fee. Balance $44.69.12, $1,100 in the repeater replacement maintenance allocation, and $33.69.12 in the general fund allocation.
Any questions on the treasurer's report? Motion to accept the treasurer's report. Scott? Do I hear a second? Sasquatch? Did I say that wrong? You got it right. Okay, good. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign? Nice job. Okay. I wanted to tell you, we're going to go through the meeting because it's really pretty short today. And then I am, and we should be, if we're not, pleased to welcome Eric to he's going to give us a presentation on something. I have no idea what it is. But that's the reason I had to be here, because despite my illness, stop.
I read it because it was another time.
Is that what it is? Okay, the Christmas party is December 7th. It'll be in this room right here. It'll be at 6:30 p.m. That's in the evening. Menu items, roast beef, which this place is known for. No. I fired Russ. No, I'm just kidding. Roast beef, fried chicken, and flounder, and various other support dishes. We're going to have an open bar. It'll be right there. Open cash bar, I should say. Stop, Marty. Always looking for a handout. And December 7th. You can sign up. We ask that you RSVP. The time frame is, we need to get the reservations in, or the number of people that are attending, a week before. So I'm going to finish the article that I started today on the website. That'll give that information. But the webpage should be, I don't know, it's kind of there, but kind of not there. I got to deal with Jason and see what he has in mind. But it's $30 a person, and that includes the tip. And obviously, whatever you drink, alcoholic beverage-wise, is on you. So that's the deal. Any questions about the Christmas party? Okay, should be a good time. We got door prizes, and we have a special presentation, and that presentation, well, let me just put it this way. There'll be magic in the air. I'll leave it at that. Welcome. Okay, that's it, man. How's that for a meeting?
Once in a lifetime.
Question, comments, and concerns. Anybody, anything, anywhere?
There's no meeting in December because of the party.
Oh, yeah, no meeting in December. Yeah, thank you, Stefan. Nobody? No 50-50 raffle. So our next meeting will be January 18th, right here at 7 p.m. Again, Christmas party, December 7th. Plan to attend and bring a friend. That's all I can tell you. All right, motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment.
Stefan.
Second? Yeah.
Wow, you guys are
Don't
anxious.
give it to Marty. He just wants to
No, I didn't give it to Marty. I didn't do that.
Well, then who?
Okay, you get. Oh, who?
I'll give it
There
to
an
Marty.
owl in here?
DJ.
I'll give it to Marty.
All right,
Scott.
that's
We'll give it
Scott.
to Scott.
Scott Talbot. Jeez. All right, now I got to show you this next slide. This is what I got from AI based on your description. Yeah, here it is. So now you tell me how close it is. I thought it was. There were four different things that popped up when I did that. I didn't have a whole lot of time to play with it, but who knows what that is? It is kind of cool, though. Anyway, let's take 5, and if you need to go to the restroom or whatever, now's your time to do that. And Eric, you want to get yourself set up here? Let's find our seats and get ready to rock and roll. We are going to rock and roll, Eric, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please find a seat. I would say sit your ass down.
Far too literal. Are we ready?
All right. Again, I'm pleased that Eric Meringue is with us tonight. I wish I knew 10% of what he knows. And I would be a very, very smart and wealthy person, just like him.
That's right.
All right, Eric,
Yeah.
take it away.
Good evening, everyone. So Gary has already given me the lead in for the Ring the Decibel, or it's all relative program. What this is a couple years ago, a group of us got together and we were talking about antenna performance, and we were discussing how we would maybe test various antennas that we had among ourselves. So we came up with an idea, and that's what this is about. It's just VHF and UHF antennas. It's not HF antennas. So it's really what started the whole process was I had a very specific antenna for work. It was a 4-band antenna for my company vehicle. And it was VHF for 2 meters, UHF 70 centimeters, and then it was 700 and 800 megahertz, sorry. On 700 and 800 in the commercial bands, it worked very well. On UHF, it worked okay. On VHF, it was kind of like a leaky dummy load. It worked, but it wasn't working well. So if you looked at the antenna, it was approximately the right size for a quarter wave at VHF, but it really didn't work well, and that started the whole ball rolling about let's measure these and see what we find. So when we talk about antennas, we talk about antenna performance and we measure it in what? dB. When you read literature, you read advertisements, they'll say, well, it has so-and-so dB gain. Well, the problem, not the problem, but one of the things you want to keep in mind is when we're talking about decibels, it has to be related to something. It's always related to something. So if you look at the literature, sometimes they will specify it's dBd. Does anybody know what that is? In reference to a dipole. And dBi? What is isotropic? It is a pretend antenna. It doesn't exist. It's purely theoretical. But if you list your gain figure related to an isotropic radiator, that gets you 2.3 dB addition rather than if you did dBd. So it kind of gives your antenna a little bit of a boost in the literature. But the point is, you have to reference it to something, and you have to define what that something is. The other thing about antenna gain, you already know this, but there's no free lunch. Antenna gain, boy, that stopped you cold, didn't it? What? So
No, there's free lunch at some place.
when we talk about antenna gain, we are talking about manipulating the pattern of an antenna so that we have energy taken from one part of the pattern and redirect it somewhere else. But again, you still have to reference that to something. The decibel is that something. It's a relative unit of measurement equal to 1/10 of a bell. I don't know anybody, and I have never encountered anything in my professional life where they used a bell. It's always been a decibel. The important thing is it's relative and it's a ratio, okay? Again, you always go back to that reference. So, the process we used, we're going to use reference antennas that are quarter wave whip antennas, like you would in a plain old mobile installation. A VHF whip for 2 meters and a UHF whip for 70 centimeters. When you're talking about a quarter wave whip, the blue line is representative of that antenna pattern. Now that's an idealized antenna pattern. That's under a perfect infinite ground, which nobody here has out in the parking lot. Okay, there's always going to be some anomaly. But the point is, the pattern for a quarter wave whip monopole, it's kind of like a donut. If you laid it on the table and sliced it horizontally, that's kind of the pattern. It's all the same all the way around. So when you want to get gain, you have to get energy from one side of that to the other side. Again, you measure the gain with decibels referenced to something. So the test that we set up, the process we used, we had 2 test stations. One test station was going to be the emitter, where we were going to have energy radiated to us. The second test station was going to be the sensor, which was the receiver, and that's where we were going to measure the received signal strength. And then we were going to measure the reference antenna for VHF and UHF, record those readings, and then we would put the antennas that we want to test on the same test stand and make those measurements. So then we had a measurement of what we had with the reference antenna, and then we had a measurement of what we got with the antenna under test, and the difference was going to be either the gain or the loss for that particular antenna with regard to the reference antenna. A couple things here though. We want to make sure we have the antennas in the same horizontal plane. We don't want them on different horizontal planes or height above ground, because we want to be on the same plane, so we would theoretically be hitting the same lobe. The antennas are all in vertical orientation. They're all vertical antennas. And here's the interesting one. The distance between the stations has to be sufficient to ensure that we're in the far field of the antenna. And we'll come back to that. So the instrument we used at the receiving station, we call it Station 1. It was an Anritsu LMR 412, which means probably very little to anybody here. Bob's not here, is he? No, Bob's not here. He has one. The antenna we used as the sensing antenna was an MFJ 1760 dual band beam. You might ask, why would we use a beam antenna at the receiving station to make our measurements? Take a guess. Anybody have any theories?
Rejection from the side.
Yes. So because it's a beam antenna, we can be behind the antenna and off to the side and be fairly confident we're going to have minimal effect of changing what that antenna is going to do in response to the energy coming from our test antennas. The fact that it is a beam antenna, i.e. it has some gain, it doesn't matter, because that's the same antenna that's going to be used for all the readings. The other advantage is, by using the dual band antenna at the sensing side, we don't have to monkey around by changing an antenna between bands. So once we set it up and we've got it on the same horizontal plane and pointed, we don't have to touch it. So we don't have variability entered into this whole situation. At the station that's going to emit, we used an Aeroflex 3920. We set the output to 25 dBm. Anybody tell us what dBm is? It was all on your license exam.
Decibel per millivolt.
No?
Milliwatt.
Milliwatt. So it's decibels related to 1 milliwatt. So the reason we use this instrument is we want to make sure that the signal that we're going to deliver into the antenna system for testing is consistent and constant. So when we change antennas, that instrument's going to continue to give us exactly the same energy into the antenna system. We put our reference antennas out at station 2, one at a time, and make our readings. And that's the detail for the antennas. It's just the regular Motorola quarter wave whip for VHF and UHF, and the frequency range that is applied to that particular piece of hardware is listed there. And then those are mounted on a 24-inch by 24-inch ground plane, aluminum ground plane sheet that has the NMO mount in the middle of that sheet. So that was our antenna test stand. Now, near field, far field. The near field, according to this particular drawing, they indicate that the near field is within 2 wavelengths of the antenna. They break the near field down into 3 areas, but the important one is the first area, it says it's reactive near field, and the next one is radiative. The thing with the reactive near field, if you're too close to the antenna we're going to test, what happens? We start loading into something else. It starts to become part of the antenna. So if we have an antenna we want to test, but Marty comes by and he sits down his mag mount and it's within, a wavelength of that test antenna, that mag mount or that other, maybe a beer can for instance, it becomes part of the antenna system and therefore the pattern is disrupted and we can't count on our test. The other thing is, when you get out here to this area, you're in the radiative area, you're still in the near field, but the antenna, the E and the H fields are not orthogonal. They're not 90 degrees to each other. They're all over the place. And so a slight movement puts you in a completely different area of energy. Yes?
Interrupt just for a second. This seems, just to bring this back to practical
Okay.
thought for folks, people who talk on HTs
Yeah.
and walk around and turn this way or go into the bath, this is exactly what
Yes.
he's talking about.
So, along that, to your comment, professionally, when we would do antenna analysis and propagation studies, we would have to clarify with the user, sometimes it was a salesman, sometimes it was the people who were going to use it, we would have to say, okay, we did our study based on the radio on belt or in hand or sitting in a car. Sometimes officers just seem to want to use their portable while it's in their belt while they're sitting in their vehicle. It just happens. So you have to encounter that. So it's in street, in hand, on belt for all those reasons. We do have several portable antennas in the test series, and it's not going to be too surprising either. Okay, so we want to stay out of the near field. I consulted with one of my friends and colleagues who does broadcast antenna design, and he recommended, even though 2 wavelengths would get us into the far field, he suggested a minimum of 10 wavelengths to make sure we're in the far field so the antenna pattern is fully developed. So that's what we did. So you'll see that for the 10 times the wavelength for VHF, that puts us at 68 feet, and for UHF, 23 feet. And we covered that, we're out at 114 feet. So this is a picture of the 2 test stands in the antenna test range on Reimer Road. Was there another question? Okay. So on the left, you can see the antenna that's the sensor antenna. I don't have a picture of the instrument on the table. And on the right, that's our test stand, and that happens to be the UHF reference antenna. So we're ready to make our reference measurements. So we make our reference measurements, and they're in bold, dark colors. For VHF, we measured negative 76.6 dBm, and for UHF, we measured negative 50.5 dBm. Anybody want to take a guess why there's such a big difference? Because we're delivering the same amount of power in the antenna system for both of those. It's still 25 dBm going into the antenna system. This is what we receive. Anybody tell me why?
I'm guessing it might take more energy for the longer wavelength?
You're close, but reverse that. It takes more energy for the shorter wavelength, higher frequency. Yes. So the path loss is higher for the UHF frequency. Okay, so those are the frequencies we used, and those are the reference measurements that we made. So here are some of the test results. So up at the top is what we measured for the reference antenna. And there are several HTs there. The figures in red are the ones that are less than, so there is not gain, but lower performance based on the reference antenna. And we have to be clear here, this is not a scientific test. We don't have a real test range. We're doing something on our own. So if we were at a real antenna test range, you would want to be able to rotate the antenna under test, so you would take readings all along its antenna pattern. We're not doing that. We're just taking one shot. So it could be different. And we're not changing elevations either, so we're not getting that aspect. So we're not taking into account the full antenna pattern. This is just a kind of going back to your practical, what does it really make it turn out for us? So a couple of these I've marked on my sheet. The 701 is a portable antenna. The rubber duck is self-explanatory. And the 224 is also on a portable type antenna. And you can see, based with regard to the reference antenna, they did significantly worse than the reference antenna. Not a big surprise. Rubber ducks are basically leaky dummy loads. Okay. On UHF, the antennas that we tested did a lot better. In fact, one of them, the Comet SSB14, actually was performing really well compared to our reference antenna. The interesting one is at the bottom, though. So we took a high band whip. So this is a VHF quarter wave, and we used it at the UHF frequency. Many people don't realize you can use a high band quarter wave on UHF, and it got us 3 dB of gain based on our reference. Now, it may not have all the energy where you want it. You can do it. So on this test, again, because we have one aspect with regard to the geometry of our test, we're only taking a look at one spot in that pattern. But in this case, it worked pretty well. So a couple points I want to bring up. So we get all wound up about antenna gains. And it's kind of like audio equipment. I'm going to get in trouble, but audio equipment, the only reason there are specifications is so we can argue about it. You know, did you actually hear any difference? Maybe. I know people that are really into audio professionally, and they will argue that to no end, and I accept that. I'm not an audio person. In fact, when I worked at the radio station, if the listeners heard the station, I was done. There were audio people that took care of the other stuff, so that wasn't me. But what I wanted to point out is, if the antenna works for your situation, you've got the right antenna. So in my work, I had occasion to do testing and evaluate antennas in situations and validate various antennas that were offered or were deployed. So you could have a situation where you're going through the Cuyahoga Valley, and you might think, oh, it's going to be a tough area because it's shadowed, you're in a valley, so you want to get a high gain antenna. That is not right. You will be hurting yourself because your energy is going to be going right into the rock. You want a broad pattern. You don't want a narrow pattern going straight out from the car. And so what you'd find is a lower gain antenna would frequently perform better in that situation than a high gain antenna. Conversely, out in western Ohio, or I commute to Colorado from time to time, you know, you can pretty much put a bungee strap on the steering wheel in Nebraska and go to sleep. There's nothing. Out there, you need to have a high gain antenna. Your quarter wave, yeah, you can talk to other cars, you're going to be able to talk into some repeaters, but there's nothing out there. You can use that gain. You need to collapse that pattern down and have gain out of the horizon. So anyway, it kind of is a long way to say even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. So if your antenna works for you, you've got the right antenna. Yes?
Just say, what I got from just what you said there is that your radiation pattern can be just as important as your gain.
It is exactly that. It's all about the radiation pattern. The gain is just how we might quantify that. I've had an example where we had a situation where we had high gain antennas on a high power transmitter, and the users had a lot of trouble using the system in that situation. And what it turns out is when you looked at the analysis, we were putting a great deal of RF power out into the lake. Now, if you were out there, Dave, great. They're not. They're in the school building. So we went to a lower gain antenna, broadened that pattern out so we're putting more on the ground, not out in the lake 30 miles from the site. Are there any questions? We kind of went right through it pretty quickly, kind of like Gary, following up Gary's short meeting.
Just one point.
Please?
In a mobile, you have to think what your antenna looks like at 70 miles an hour.
Right, right, that's right. It's highly variable. Your pattern's changing quite a bit, plus whatever anomalies you have based on where it's mounted on the automobile.
So that 5-foot high gain monster may actually be worse at 70 miles an hour.
Very, very true. And I will tell you that I had and I don't remember the model number, but it was a type of antenna, if you pulled it up, it was spring-loaded, and it held down in the base. But if you pulled it up, you could collapse it, and that was fine. But if you're going across Ohio at highway speeds and you're in gusty winds, that thing would pull up and just lay down, and you wouldn't know it.
Diamond SG7900.
That's exactly the one. Exactly one. It was a great antenna when it was vertical. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all I had, and I just wanted to say that all electrons have been recycled.
All right. Thank you, Eric. I got to tell you that that was fabulous. I loved the presentation. If you didn't get anything out of that presentation, then you are numb. I'm kind of numb, but I did get something. But you're medicated. But I'm medicated, exactly. Anybody have any other questions? Anything for the good of the cause? I do appreciate everybody who showed up tonight. Again, I apologize for me being delinquent the last few weeks. But with any luck, after a few more doses of erythromycin, I should be in pretty good shape. So thank you all for being here tonight, and look forward to the Christmas party on December 7th and January 16th, I think it is. Last thing, I have one last thing. No. Well, I should say that. But the election for the Great Lakes Division, geez Louise. The Great Lakes Division Supervisor. No, help me, Scott. Director. Yeah, I knew that. I'm telling you guys, I just don't feel it. Okay. But anyway, is tomorrow. So if you are an ARRL member and you have procrastinated on voting, please vote for our very own Scott Yonley. And if you're not going to vote for Scott, don't bother. Wait a minute. Am I allowed to say that? Oh, I did anyway. No, but I looked all over for when the election actually ended. I couldn't find it, but Scott told me
Ballots
that
have to be in by 12 noon tomorrow.
12 noon tomorrow. Okay, so go home tonight if you haven't voted and vote, please. That's it. Thank you all for coming. And happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, we